In March of this year, 2014, I gave a talk on our vision for the year. Since then, we've bought a recording system, so we decided to record the talk for those who weren't around at the time. The talk is an exact repetition of what was given in March. Now, I remember when our children were much younger, we would go on family walks, and the children would run in every way possible except for the way forward. Every rabbit hole was a distraction. Every tree was a potential climbing frame. And that's a bit like us and vision. We tend to go off course, and it's good for us to regularly check that we're on course. And that's one reason why each year we have a Vision Sunday. Another reason why it's good for us to look at our vision regularly is because, well, there are new people that join us each year. We expect and plan for this to happen, and it's right for the new people to get to hear our vision. Having vision is it's seeing life as it could be, or as it should be. The last time we talked about our vision was when we first got started, which was about 1.5 years ago. So this talk is a bit overdue, but it's packed full of celebration as we reflect on what we've done this past year and exciting challenge as we look forward to the coming year. So we do have vision. I mean, God's given us glimpses of the preferred future for Sheffield Vineyard and its effect on the city of Sheffield. Moreover, we're working hard to make our vision become a reality. And there's loads of ways that all sorts of people can get involved in the running of the church. But there's only one thing that the church leader ought never give away, and that's the vision. Staying in close proximity with God and hearing His vision for His church is the most important part of Karen and my life as church leaders. Closely following this, our job is to state the vision clearly, cast the vision convincingly, repeat the vision regularly, celebrate the vision systematically, so that everyone can embrace the vision personally. So what's our vision? Well, on our website we have a page entitled Vision for the Future, and it reads this: God has called us to establish a vibrant, biblically based, regional church rooted in Sheffield that will, 1, love God and worship Him in relevant and creative ways, 2, to learn to live as God intended, and 3, live life with compassion and generosity. Karen and I spent almost 2 years choosing those words before we started the church, wanting to think through the implications, the order, the impression, and the meaning. And so I'd just like to give a few moments to go over those words and the phrases. So it starts with, God has called us. And that's how it is. I mean, God is first and we follow Him. He's called us to establish. I mean, that's more than just start. That's to bring to maturity. And it's to establish a vibrant church. You know, we want to have fun. We want it to be energetic, always moving in an attractive way. We want to establish a biblically based church. So what do we believe? What's our theological foundation? Well, it's the Bible. I mean, sure, we listen to our consciences and we try to hear the personal voice of God, but if it contradicts the Bible, then we've simply misheard. He wants us to establish a regional church. You know, we expect that people will travel long distances to be part of us, and some already do. We're not here to serve a parish or a specific community. Not that that's a bad thing, but we recognize that we're here to influence the culture in and around Sheffield. We are a vineyard church. Let's just be clear on that. We abide hook, line and sinker to vineyard values. Now, don't hear me say that we're better than some of the other churches or we don't want anything to do with other churches. Honestly, nothing could be further from the truth. I'm simply stating the fact that we are signed up members of Vineyard Churches UK and Ireland. And Karen and I submit to the oversight and the leadership of Vineyard Churches UK and Ireland. And we're rooted in Sheffield. whilst we want to influence the whole of the area around Sheffield by planting other churches and doing things that have a substantial impact far afield, our base is in Sheffield. And then we come to the three tangible goals that we want to pursue. We want to love God, worship him in relevant and creative ways. Our primary goal is to worship God. We want to run hard after that age-old biblically based gospel of Jesus in a way that we and others can really relate to today. And we want to learn to live as God intended. Learning is a constant process. We always want to get better. God has great intentions for our lives to be meaningful. He wants us to pursue a life that mimics his. And we want to live life with compassion and generosity. And I mean really live. So many people think that following Jesus means just to stop all fun and become boring. But it's the exact opposite which is true. Following Jesus is fantastic. It's the people who don't follow who are missing out. And whilst compassion is seeing it from their perspective, generosity is giving all that we have to benefit God's kingdom and all of his children. We recognize that we have everything when we have Jesus, and our job is to give it all away. On the homepage of our website, we've slightly amended our vision to make it easier for our drive-by audience. And it says, "We are a growing group of people who love worshipping God in creative and relevant ways. We're learning to live our lives as God intended, and we want to actively impact the people of Sheffield with bucket loads of compassion and generosity." That's our vision. That's the road that we're walking down. Sometimes we're running, and sometimes we're tired. But still, it's good to know which way we're heading. Sometimes when we're feeling really lazy, we abbreviate the statements even further to just 3 words. Love, learn, and live. Now, as a vision statement, love, learn, and live is wholly incomplete. But we feel it's better to have something that's incomplete and memorable than to have something that is completely forgettable. So why do we have vision? What does a vision address? Well, the problem we face is that there are over 552,000 people in Sheffield. That's almost 1% of the British nation. And almost all of them don't have a personal relationship with Jesus. Sheffield is the 3rd largest English district by population, and it has one of the highest ratios of people who don't know Jesus in the whole of the UK. And so if we consider its size combined with its ranking in the list of secular places, Sheffield is perhaps the biggest challenge facing the church in the UK today. That's why we moved here. We wanted that challenge. So what do we do in response to this issue? Well, we want to be part of a group of people and a group of churches who turns that statistic on its head within our lifetime. I'm going to be a happy man at the point that Sheffield is renowned for having a disproportionately large number of people who love Jesus. Why do we want to follow our vision? Well, we're compelled to act because our current situation is disgraceful. And we're not content to ignore it. And it's because we believe that God has a plan and that God specifically wants us to be involved in his plan for his people right now. So we've had a look at our vision, what it is, why we have it. It's going to be really helpful now if we just have a look at what we've done over this past year, reflecting and celebrating on the great stuff that God's done through us. You see, vision can seem to be a bit like a bunch of hopes and dreams, but to give vision tangibility, to illustrate its progression, it's good to celebrate what we've done to date. I can tell you we've got loads to celebrate. In the summer of 2012, when we first looked at our vision, we were a tiny group of people. We had a disproportionately large number of children, mostly thanks to the cross. My first pastoral job was to baptize Tim, my son. And even before Karen and I moved to Sheffield, we met up with a few people who heard on the grapevine that Sheffield Church was, that a Vineyard Church was coming to Sheffield. And so we met in the local park and we made boats from sticks and we tried out perspective photography. The evidence is still there to be seen on Facebook. At one time, I wanted to make a hot air balloon with the children, so I got these small tins, and in each one of them, I put a Tampax, which was soaked in lighter fluid, and I tried it through a huge plastic bag, and I thought, actually, it'd be best to try this out at home first, which was a good idea, because the design was a disaster. I mean, twice the whole balloon just caught fire, and there was this floating Tampax ball of fire which threatened to destroy my garage. The outcome of my risk assessment was not encouraging. Anyway, soon after, Karen and I landed in Sheffield. Having lived in Leeds for 15 years, we met up with Crofts and a student who we knew. We had our first formal meeting in this amazing oak panel ballroom in a grand stately manor, which is used as a Christian kids holiday venue. It's called the Oaks, and it's got grounds and a lake. It was a great start. We later formed a life group, and we met together weekly. We made a website, mostly to give the impression that we were much bigger than our reality. I remember one day I got a phone call from another church down south somewhere who asked if they could be put through to our web design and management department. I remember being excited when we got 25 people who liked our Facebook page within 2 days of it going live. In September of last year, we opened our second life group, and we started to meet up monthly on Sunday. We later planted out the Crofts to lead a life group in Parson Cross. Over this last year, we've grown steadily and healthily. We now currently have 3 life groups with an average of 25 people attending each week, and we have Sunday services, which as of next month, our Easter party, they're going to happen weekly. And around 30 to 40 people have been coming to our Sunday services, and at one time we had 50. And so I'm also proud to say that, from the very beginning, we've been visiting people on the streets of Sheffield to hand out tea and coffee, snacks, and we've been getting to know the big issue vendors and praying with them. Each month we've been walking in the beautiful Peak District, sampling some of their finest pints or hot coffees. Only once has it been rained off. In fact, on New Year's Day, we, the Griffins, were the only ones to make it from Sheffield Vineyard. However, 17 friends turned up, and we had a most fantastic time. In January this year, we helped out in Lorna and Simon's wedding. In October of last year, Karen and I went to France to explore the idea of starting a partnership with the French Vineyard. And now we lead that partnership, and we're planning a trip this year, which you're all welcome to come along to. We are committed to being part of this partnership for the next 5 years, by praying, by meeting with our French friends and regularly giving a proportion of our finances. We also gave money to Ali and Liana, who live in a really impoverished part of rural Mozambique and have spent some time with us over Christmas. Ali and Liana have adopted 2 wonderful Mozambican children, and they have a long-standing great relationship with the Vineyard Church. I've calculated that in the last 12 months, Karen has cooked meals for approximately 1,600 people. Each month, the people of this church give an average of around £2,100 to the church so that it can undertake all that it sets out to do. Our trustees and accountants gave me a financial update just last Wednesday, and I can confirm that since January 2013, in the last 14 months, people from this church have given, and this includes tithes, gifts, and money that we claim through gift aid, £21,770.20, all in a time of recession, and with a large number of you not in any paid employment. Now that's extraordinarily generous, and it speaks volumes of where your heart is and of your passion to see positive change in Sheffield. Some of our children have taken part in Dreaming the Impossible and other Christian youth camps. And the grown-ups have had some fun too. We've had wine tasting parties, Christmas tree chopping events, firework displays, more barbecues than I can count. Sophie's got baptized. Students have come and they've just run riot. We've been on a national leadership conferences, worship conferences. We've had training and equipping conferences. We've been to the pub a lot of the time. And just in this last week, we've decorated the kitchen. We've visited Leeds Vineyard on a ministry trip. And I've had coffee with someone who wants to be the next MP for Sheffield. So I want to show you a quick movie of a decorating gig that we did from last weekend. Now we did this decorating because Matt and Yvette had compassion for a couple of people, and they're just beginning to get to know them, and they've just started to come along to their life group. Matt assessed the situation, he planned what was needed to be done, he organised for others to get involved. A group of people did it and they had fun along the way. 4 hours with Aaron's humour was brilliant, and it all started with compassion from someone for someone. This is vision in action. Now there are loads of things I've missed out, and I'm sorry if that's you, but all in all, we've done an awful lot. So it's good to celebrate what we've done. Why? Because we tend to repeat what we celebrate. Also, when life seems like a big shopping list of things to do, reflecting and seeing what's already been done is likely to be really encouraging. But before we move on, I wanted to mention one thing about vision generally. And I know that people here carry this vision around with them because they ask for prayer about things that relate to the vision. If people ask for prayer about their friends because their friends are far away from knowing God, I get really happy, because that's exactly what I want people to be concerned with. You know, John, who was playing the drums earlier, has temporarily swapped from the Tuesday life group to the Wednesday life group so that he can take a friend to an Alpha course on Tuesdays. I love that attitude. That's vision in action. So what's next? Well, during January we prayed as a church and we tried to hear what God was saying to us. And during this time, loads of people had fantastic pictures and really good words from God. One picture that Hannah had was of a hammer knocking tent pegs into the ground and constructing a huge tent. And when I read it, it just got me thinking. I was reminded of a huge circus tent which has colossal steel pegs. Now these sorts of structures, they take a long time to construct, and it's done in stages. And they're complicated, and there's lots of setting out that needs to be done before anything can start at all. Pegs just can't be shoved into the ground in random places or convenient places. It needs to be put into the ground in a mapped out and a marked out and a considered way. And this stage in the life of Sheffield Vineyard, it feels like we're hammering in our second tent peg. the project remains far from complete. We've really just started pummeling in our first tent peg, and it's gone really well. And we need to just get on now with the next one. Now, it wouldn't surprise me that we would drive in the odd tent peg in the wrong place from time to time. But that's okay. We just take it out and we put it in the right place. But what I don't want to do is nothing for the fear of getting it wrong. Instead, we do God's stuff as best we can, and we have fun along the way. And as we look ahead towards 2014 and 15, our vision is for more. We want to deepen what's going well. We want to love more. We want more compassion. We want more healthy relationships. We want people coming along and being part of our church. We want more people to fall in love with Jesus. We want more baptisms. We want to be known in our communities as a generous and as a compassionate bunch of people. On Friday I received a phone call from an organisation who wants to grow food for a food bank, and they need helpers. And Dr. Caroline Hart suggested that this company should ring us up, the Sheffield Vineyard, because, in her words, they help people like that. Now, I had no idea who Dr. Caroline Hart is. And from what I can gather, she's simply heard of our reputation, and then she's passed it on. So we are developing a great reputation. That's great. Of all that we're doing, there are 5 areas where Karen and I would like to see tangible evidence for the occurrence of more this coming year. Here they are. Number 1, Sunday morning services. So we're on the cusp of going live weekly. Our weekly services are going to start as of Easter, and they're going to be here, and they're going to start at the slightly later time of 10:30. Our second want for more are life groups. We have 2 life groups at the moment, and we're also doing a Freedom in Christ course. And I'd love for us to have another 2 life groups by the end of the year. Thirdly, we have what we call reach out. And I have no idea how we measure that, but I just want to do more of it. I want to have more impact on the city of Sheffield through our reach out projects. Fourthly, we want to pray more. We love the 24-hour prayer events, and we feel that prayer is really key to our success. And lastly, we want to give more. As we grow, as our ability to do more increases, so we will need the funds to organise events and to activate the events. So I'd love for our giving to grow commensurately with our number and our faith. Now, this part of the talk relates really solely to the people who come here regularly and who consider themselves followers of Jesus. If you're visiting here today, or you're not sure where you stand with Jesus, just completely ignore this next part. We're not after anything from you at all. As we seek to do more, we need to keep pace by ensuring that we have the resources that enable us to do more. The vast majority of our income comes from people who give on a regular basis by standing order. Regular income means we can budget accurately. I'd like to aim to be in a position where we can appoint workers and have paid members of staff to run the organisational side of our church and ensure it does all it sets out to do. And as a rule, I'd like to aim towards spending between 40 to 50% of our income on staff. That is, people who know far more than me, and getting them to lead successful churches for the long term. I'd like to aim to be in a place where we can appoint workers and have paid members of staff to run the organisational side of our church and to ensure it does all it sets out to do. As a rule, I'd like to aim towards spending between 40 and 50% of our income on staff. People who know far more than me and have been leading really successful churches for a long time, including our own trustees, who also work, by the way, for Leeds and Harrogate Vineyard. And they tell me that 40 to 50%, that mark is a good place to aim to be. It represents a good balance between high quality staff to help run a church and our ability to be compassionate and generous as a community together. At the moment, we pay an admin team based in Leeds to sort out all of our financial and legal requirements, which means that Karen and I don't have to get involved in any of that. And instead, we can concentrate on what we do best. But gradually and under the guidance of our trustees, I'd like for us to see people based in Sheffield helping to ensure the church runs well and continues to grow. Now, it's often the case that people who are not giving don't give either because start that again. It's often the case that people who are not giving either very much or anything at all are it's not that they're unwilling or they're unable to do so. See, most people who follow Jesus and who don't give to a church don't give because they just haven't managed to get around to organising their giving. And if that's you, I'd like to ask you to reflect on what you've heard today and invest financially in what we collectively as a church want to do in Sheffield. And if you'd like to give to this church, we have a leaflet at the back near the tea and coffee, and the leaflet's also in our welcome pack. Please do take one. Talk to God, think through the issues, and make a decision to commit financially to the church. And at some stage later in the year, I hope to give a talk on giving and tackle some of the popular questions that many of us have, such as how much, who to, what if I'm not in any paid employment, do I give to a church or other organisations, what's the difference between gifts and tithes and offerings, what's gift aid and does it affect me, and other questions like that. Giving to the church is not a law, but it's an invitation. And it's an invitation that many people here are starting to take really seriously. Something else I'd like to talk to you about is serving. We're really excited to see something else I'd like to talk about is serving. We're really excited to start to get together and meet on a Sunday. It feels like we're becoming a grown-up church. But there's some work involved in making something like that happen. And this work will grow as we grow. To make events take place, there are people who are needed to set up the equipment, set it down again, take the equipment from and to the store, which we use on the A61. We need people to buy food and make sure that we have plenty to drink. There are others who need to work on various bits of equipment and prepare activities for the children. There are people who are needed to lead worship, and there are others who organise life groups and prayer groups and ministry trips and gathering events and administration. I know that some of you organise teaching material. We have people who help out as we plan ahead. There are loads of you who spend vast amounts of time and energy on things that don't directly benefit you. And when I compare us against many other organisations and indeed many other churches, it's evident to me that many of you here are unusually giving and generous people. And that we don't want you to burn out. We recognise that some of you have busy and important jobs, that some of you have elements in your lives which rightly take up time. Children, elderly parents, lazy spouses. I'm often amazed at how many of you give so much and in every way that you can. I mean, Keith, for instance, works in Bradford. He stays in Bradford because the travel is horrendous. But he comes home on a Wednesday night, and instead of having an evening with Tina, both Tina and Keith come along to our life group almost without fail, and they have a great time with us. Now, I could go on with other stories of individuals who demonstrate all of this vision in action, but it would just take too long. So here's the summary. Last month, we looked at being determined to make a difference. And my invitation to you was to deepen your pursuit, to give your time and energy and money to champion God's kingdom and his cause through the church. And to repeat what I said last month, your time, your energy and money are just too valuable to waste. Every pound you spend, every moment you invest in others makes a difference. So if you would like to move from being an attender to a contributor to this church, and all it has vision for, then you can do it in 4 ways. Number 1, come regularly to our Sunday services. 2, plug into a life group. 3, find a place where you can serve. And 4thly, give regularly. My hope would be that the vision that I've been talking about today would become your personal vision. Karen and I have said many times that we feel God has called us to grow Sheffield Vineyard such that it becomes 1,000 strong within 10 years. My hope would be that for the time that you're with us, that you would share this vision personally, that you would be driven to take action to make the difference, that the church's quest for more would be your quest for more, that the church's quest to bless others would be your quest to bless others, and that the church's quest to give would be your quest to also give. Thanks for listening, and I really hope you have a great day.